success. It's the rhythm we feel.
Good morning, everyone. I am Willard John. I'm the chairman of the Virgin Islands Port Authority Governing Board. And our topic of discussion this morning is the transportation industry. I have three distinguished gentlemen that will be on the panel, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and tell us what their area of expertise in terms of why we invited them here. Mr. Farchette.
Okay. Good morning. I am Carlos Farchette. I worked for the Department of Planning and Natural Resources for about 30 years in the Law Enforcement Division. And after I retired, I joined I was selected by the governor at that time to be part of the Caribbean Fisheries Management Council. And I have been in that position for the last 12 years.
Fantastic. Awesome.
Bill?
Good morning. William Bohlke, Bohlke International Aviation, third generation, born in St. Croix. Our role at the airport is everything from airlift to fuel logistics to maintenance, customer service at the FBO, meeting and greeting, private aviation, commercial aviation. As of late, Aero MD, we provide the airlift for them, so that's a key part. Been here since 1959 and looking to continue forward for many years to come.
John?
Good morning. My name is John Farchette, and I'm also retired DPNR, Coastal Zone Management, St. Croix 10 Marine Park. I was a Marine Park Ranger, but I've also been involved in the creation and hopefully the implementation of aquaculture and mariculture in the Virgin Islands, which requires a maritime component as well as a lot of transportation to export from the VI.
So let's talk a little bit about transportation in general. The transportation industry really is a set of companies that move people and goods from one location to the other. That's the simplest definition I can come up with. If you have a better one, help me. But and there are four areas in the transportation industry. There's air, there's road, there's rail, and there's sea. We have little to no rail in the Virgin Islands. So we can talk about the other three areas. Bill, I want to start with you. Let's talk
Sure.
a little bit about air. What are some of the services that you provide, and what are the related jobs?
Sure. So on the Bohlke International Aviation side, we provide out of the gate private aviation, on-demand charter, for instance. So what that means is 24/7, 365. If a need arises and somebody needs to get from A to B, whether it's from St. Croix to St. Thomas or St. Croix to Los Angeles, we can provide a solution for that. The jobs associated with that, obviously pilots, right? Out of the gate, we think, well, we need pilots to do that. However, outside of the pilot realm, you need the maintainers, you need the ground support team, you need the customer service representatives. Nowadays, paperwork, as we know, it was supposed to go away in the year 2000, but it's just seemed to accumulate. We have a lot of requirements as far as customs and TSA and prior arrival notices and things of that nature. So it's a wide spectrum of support to move one flight. I would say in our business, at any one given time, moving an airplane from A to B, it's a 10-person job. It's not just the pilots in the cockpit out of the gate. So that on the aviation side is key, but all those other facets of our organization help make that happen. And that's across the board with any air provider that you see, and it's all relative to the size and scale of that business.
So to talk a little bit more about transportation, in the movement of these goods and people, what it really does is expand our economy. Am I correct?
100%. So, for instance, that's what I like to say is whether it originates in St. Croix or elsewhere, I would say about 80% of our business might originate outside of the U.S. Virgin Islands. So it could happen, we could move someone from Barbados to Paramaribo, Suriname, right? But those tax dollars and the jobs that are provided here in the U.S. Virgin Islands, that it all trickles down and comes back to the USVI. So it's all interconnected.
You might also want to add the importance of this industry during a disaster and after a disaster, because I'm looking at what's been happening in the United States, the supply chain, bringing important elements here when they're most needed after disaster.
100%. So a little tangent on that. So Irma Maria was really a testament of air logistics. And as Virgin Islands, we all know how difficult it was for all of us. But in that instance, you had the Air Force, right? They came in with MREs and generators and things of that nature. But alongside of them, we were providing inter-island airlift, moving supplies before the St. Croix got hit by Maria, moving supplies from St. Croix to St. Thomas and then to Tortola, and then helping our neighbors out. But then soon thereafter, we realized that we too were in not good shape when Maria hit us in Puerto Rico.
Talk a little bit about, for example, when Biden was vice president.
Yes.
He came here often. I think he came here once as president.
Yes.
What does that involve in terms of transport?
100%. So that's really interesting, and we get really excited about it at Bohlke and in the Port Authority. It takes two to tango to make it work. I will say that 100%. It's not just our organization. It's a Virgin Islands event. So the president has come twice as president. Air Force One has been here the last 2 years, and we'll see. Hopefully, we see him again this coming Christmas. But for instance, just to give you a 1-minute synopsis, that involves anywhere from 10 to 20 C-17 cargo jets from the Air Force just to move the logistics in order to accommodate that movement.
What does a C-17 look like?
Yeah, C-17, it's a 4-engine Boeing giant jet that you see coming over infill green, landing, wondering, why is this coming here? Well, St. Croix, we are at an advantage. We have a 10,000-foot runway, and that helps accommodate these large aircraft that are moving from A to B and sometimes stopping here, going to West Africa. For instance, and to get back to the president, but to add on that, when Ebola happened in West Africa, guess what? We saw a lot of that traffic come through Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands because Europe wouldn't allow those aircraft to transit Europe. They came through here. But for instance, with the president, it is a huge impact for the U.S. Virgin Islands because of our airport, but the hotels, the rental cars, and everything associated with that mission creates so much stimulus for the local economy. It's really a windfall for all involved.
So another area, Carlos, is sea. We depend on the sea to move goods and people as well. Talk a little bit about that area. And your specific area of expertise is fisheries. So
Right.
Talk to us.
So we move product between the islands in Puerto Rico and St. Thomas, St. John. But it's a small fleet compared to the huge, larger cargo vessels. But when it comes to cargo, we depend a great deal on cargo coming to the VI and Puerto Rico.
Would you agree that over 90% of what we rely on in the Virgin Islands is dependent on
Yeah.
cargo?
Very much so. And look at what just happened with the strike that was about to take place. That would have really impacted our economy if that were to occur. It's a good thing that they settled until January, but let's see what's going to happen after that.
So tell us a little bit about the type of jobs that are available that's directly in that industry and related to the industry.
Well, when it comes to my section, the fishermen, they have helpers. So it kind of boosts the economy in that way. They have to pay to transport their catch to the different islands. We move a lot of conch to St. Thomas. They don't have much of a industry with conch divers, but we do. And as a matter of fact, we are a majority of a diving industry right now. There's no more old-time fish trap fishing here on St. Croix left compared to St. Thomas.
Tell me a little more about that.
I think what happened was that after Hurricane Hugo, they lost so much of their gear that it was mostly cost prohibitive for them to start rebuilding their traps and putting that out. So a few of them just started using scuba, and they realized that they target the species that they want, and it was much easier and a lot more beneficial to them economically.
John, again, you're in the sea area as well. We depend on it so much in the Virgin Islands. Our existence, everything we do, everything we import, over 90% of what we import comes via the sea. Am I correct?
Correct.
And so what types of jobs are available in that area, and what type of training should we be doing?
As far as it relates to what it is that I'm getting, as far as it relates to what it is that I am involved in, is it's the exportation of manufactured products from the Virgin Islands. And for that, the boating industry, of course, is crucial. Refrigerated cargo exporting out of the Virgin Islands is new. Aquaculture and mariculture would be a new industry, and the rules and regulations are headed to the legislature for ratification. And then the VI Aquaculture Plan, which is a 5-year VI Aquaculture Plan. But this will establish an industry that basically would promote and would require that we export, because our market here is finite, whereas the American market is wide open, especially in the finfish industry, which we import so much from the Asian countries that don't follow our rules and regulations as far as human consumption, food for human consumption. So we need to have U.S.-made products established here in the Virgin Islands. It would be a new industry, and it would promote exportation. One of them would be refrigerated semis being sent to the U.S. market, but also to the Asian market, which is also wide open. And we would just have to get it to Jamaica, which is the transshipment point for the Chinese market. As well as on-the-bone fish, which you put into not refrigerated trucks, but into bins full of ice. And you would then put that for the seafood market in Miami, New York, and Boston, which currently are purchasing and are hungry for finfish from fresh finfish, which means that it's freshly caught. That requires the air industry to be able to transport that in a short amount of time.
So this fisheries industry is in the planning and preparation stages now.
Correct.
My question to you is, what types of jobs are available, and what types of training do we need to get involved in, and how can we involve the government and anyone else to assist us with that preparation?
Well, training should start, in my opinion, in elementary school, with children being exposed to aquariums and growing fish, so that they can understand the behavior of fish, and then eventually go into high school. And then, of course, UVI has a aquaponics training, and also UVI has marine biology degrees every year, are putting out marine biologists, which are crucial to this industry to be able to grow fish and export. So it would be a marine hatchery, a feed plant, as well as a seafood processing plant, which is the only way you could fill up those refrigerated trailers and export out of the VI.
So this is a mechanized situation, but you need people to operate it.
That's correct.
And they need proper training to operate these machinery as well as repair them. Am I correct?
Correct. And it's getting to the point where the technology has gone so far as automation of this work. And so you need technicians to be able to deal with the problems that automation brings to the table.
So we should really be looking at some of our high schools and other training elements that could help prepare our people for these areas, am I?
Correct. And others see the value of this industry. We just had a Norwegian company looking to do fish farming here in St. Croix.
Yes, I heard they were here, and they went around the island looking at the sea, testing the depth, testing what types of fish we have, so that they could think about and plan what they're going to do.
If they're looking at us from that far away, we need to be looking from here.
And we have to be in our preparation stages, because when there's any development here, we have to have the manpower to supply that development.
That's correct. If we can train someone here to operate a refinery, we can train them to grow fish.
Sounds good to me, and we have to eat to operate the refinery, am I correct?
Talk about high school.
Yes, go ahead.
I think something that we need is the capacity to have captain's license courses be taught here, maybe in CTEC, because they have a great electrical course going on right now. And I think that would be a benefit to the younger generation. I mean, you get a captain's license, you can work anywhere, and you're going to eventually move your way up to even operating a cruise ship or by a local Virgin Islander. You never know.
So there are two parts to doing that. There's a hands-on and there's a theory, am I correct?
Right.
Theory happens in the classroom, then we have to get on the
sea.
Vessels
Right.
and
go out.
and train. Likewise with the air.
Correct.
Right. Well, we went to Coast Guard school when I joined DPNR. We had to go to a Coast Guard academy to learn the same thing, operating at boats at night, hands-on.
So that's something that can be done here.
Yes, that's something that
And
can
we
be
can
done.
train high school students as
That's
well
right.
as young adults to
Exactly.
be involved in that area.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to throw this out, the importance of training and showing young people in our community that there's a part in the economy for them. There's a role in the economy for them. And our need to prepare them and to encourage them to get involved so that they can become involved.
100%. Yes, so
Bill.
that's at Bohlke, we are open door. I welcome local Virgin Islanders to come back to St. Croix, because the hardest thing for all of us that live in the islands is retaining people here, right? That want to be here. We don't have all the niceties of the U.S. mainland. It's just a fact of life, but it's a beautiful place to live. But anytime we have people that are interested in aviation, I much prefer to organically have local Virgin Islanders work with us, because the demise of any organization, as you all know, is turnover, right? And if you have a revolving door of people coming and going and not staying, it really hurts the organization. So we really value keeping local Virgin Islanders and we've had a lot of success stories. I could go on and on.
So give me a couple.
Sure. I think the one that really sticks out in my mind, there's been a lot, but there's one young man, and if he's listening somewhere or he sees this one day, he'll smile. But there's a young guy by the name of Trevor Valerie. Okay, Trevor went to Complex, but I remember when he was maybe a freshman in high school, him coming to the airport, hanging out at the office, and again, we open the door. If anybody wants to just come hang around the airport and be around airplanes, by all means, send them out. But Trevor would come, and I remember saying, "Mr. Bohlke, can I borrow your pilot outfit with the epaulets? I have to do a speech at school." I said, "Sure, no problem, Trevor." But he was like this big, small guy. Next thing I know, Trevor comes back to me and says, "Hey, I got a scholarship to go to Embry-Riddle, a full ride." And we know that's not cheap. But Trevor, I mean, he was a self-starter. He did this on his own. 6 months prior to graduation, Trevor calls me back. "Hey, I need a job." I said, whoa, it's not that easy. So I said, you always low time. I said, "You can come back. You can build your time with me." And he and I bombed around the Caribbean for almost 2 years. Then the next step was he became a co-pilot on the medevac operation, got a type rating, built his time. Then the next step is I put him on a large corporate jet with me. We flew around the U.S. together. And then he went away to Dallas for about 6 months, got a little more experience, and now he's an international first officer with Delta Airlines based out of Atlanta. And that was his dream. And that's just one of many success stories. But the fact of the matter is, whether it's Bohlke, Fly the Whale, Seabourn, the local airlift providers, we want local talent to stay with us. And of course, if you want to move on and grow your career, it's understandable. But the sky is the limit. So that's just one of many that I can give you that was really.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
How do we make sure that we include minorities, for example, women? I know there's quite a bit in aviation.
Right.
But when we look at trucking, when we look at being on the sea,
Right.
there aren't that many women. So how can we prepare and encourage females and other minorities to be a part of this process?
That's a good question. I mean, I know of only a couple females that are fisherwomen here on St. Croix and on St. Thomas, but Puerto Rico has quite a few. I'm not sure what would lure them to do that. I guess you just gotta love it. I'm not really sure.
I do think that one of the important aspects of doing that is exposure. We have to expose females and other minorities more to these untraditional areas where they're not commonly occurring.
Yeah.
And I think by doing that exposure, and someone mentioned about starting in elementary school, that's true.
Yeah. Teach fishing in school.
Because there's no such thing as a woman's job or a man's job.
Yeah, right. That's
Correct.
true.
People's jobs.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really there has to be the mindset from the employer from the get-go. Is our approach from day one has always been, if you're qualified to do the job, man, woman, religion doesn't matter. You're qualified to add value to an organization, to a community, then the door is open.
I went to Barbados for a meeting, and I went to the market, and there are a lot of fisherwomen in there.
Barbados?
Yeah, they're either on the boat or they're actually selling the fish. So there's always a role for them to play.
Yes, and that role is anything.
Anything,
Anything.
yeah.
That's correct. Let's talk a little bit about clean environment sustainability. That's important in our community today, and we know the effect of climate change in our environment. So how do we make sure that's integrated in our respected areas and also in the training? Who'd like to take that?
I could start off, and I think with you gentlemen being the ocean is a hot topic, but on the aviation side, a key part of it is SAF, which is Sustainable Aviation Fuel. And if you just Google it, it's really interesting, but I don't want to go on a tangent, but that is, I believe that will be a mandate as far as the airlines go. To the percentage of their fuel comes from SAF. So just think of grease from a restaurant, and they're able to mix it, and with technologies, that offsets actual carbon fuels. And there's been talk of creating a mixing plant, formerly Hovenza area. There's different ideas. It just needs to be embraced and understood and implemented.
I know when I worked at the complex, at the vocational school as a principal, we had a diesel program. And the teacher there went to McDonald's and got that oil, the used oil,
Right.
and turned that into diesel
Right.
fuel. So
Yeah.
that's really a very interesting area.
Yeah.
And we need to, again, expose our youth to that and encourage them. What about the sea?
Well, we actually do see advancements in battery technology that are being used in these ships that are being used to transport cargo across the world. And they're using wind, solar, and battery storage to come across the oceans. And it's a new industry. It's moving pretty quickly, but that is the zero carbon emission. And that is one way that we need to look at, because it's already being implemented. It's not something that it was 10 years ago. It was difficult to get anybody to even understand that could be done.
Yeah. To piggyback on that, that's what we'll see as well. Whether it's the short haul commuters will be eVTOLs, electrically driven aircraft. The longer haul, I think, will be the last to adopt it. But I guarantee you, in the next 10 years, when you get on an airplane to go from St. Croix to St. Thomas or San Juan, it'll be electrically driven. 100%.
What about the use of things like AI in your areas? Artificial intelligence.
I don't know if we use that, but one of the things when you talk about climate change, technology has advanced so much. Like we went from two-stroke engines that when you start them, they're just pluming a whole bunch of gray smoke to four-stroke, where it's very quiet, very low emissions. But AI, I don't know.
Yes. So in the aviation world, just in the office space, AI is it's everywhere. You try to manage it. There's resistance, right? Because if you have too much automation, then we as human beings lose our role. You have to have people to manage the automation, but it's a fine line. But we see it. Well, I just think if you look into your email box, your inbox, you scratch your head and be like, did so-and-so really write that? Nowadays, you're starting to see a lot more automated AI. But on the aviation side, where we really see it is charter quoting and sourcing of all that data and helping streamline and actually help generate more towards the bottom line, which in turn helps provide the jobs for our organization.
Is that something you use, for example, in plotting a course?
Yeah, I mean, behind the scenes, Willard, yeah, of course it's there. And the aviation side, 100%. AI is, that intelligence is the computing power really is what it is. And it's
what about training models? How should we train our people in your respective areas? Should there be on-the-job training? Should it be apprentices? Should it be online training?
Mentorship.
What are your thoughts?
I agree with all the above. I think that apprenticeship and the industry needs to participate a little more with their employees to get them on-hands training. I kind of lost my train of thought there.
That's okay. We're talking about training modules.
Yeah.
Yes,
We are already using autonomous.
Mike. The mic.
We're already using autonomous vehicles for research. UVI has a Slocum autonomous vessel that actually dives 3,000 feet below sea level and takes readings of temperature, pressure, and currents, and then comes back up and then autonomously sends that information to a satellite. And Rutgers University is the one that's holding the data and actually owns the Slocum, but local folks are the ones doing and using that autonomous AI technology. My son is actually one of the technicians for Rutgers at UVI. But look at SpaceX. SpaceX sends out a barge autonomously, and it lands the booster rockets from the rockets coming back to the surface and lands on a pitch yaw platform that is being controlled autonomously.
The use of drones is quite prevalent now.
Yeah. Yes.
For example, Amazon is using them to
Deliver.
packages. I was listening to something on the radio yesterday, and they were talking about using an aircraft that's like a drone as a taxi service for short runs. So if you had to get to the airport quickly from one location to the other, you would use that.
That's definitely what you will see. The eVTOL. It's almost George and the Jetsons. We never thought it was going to happen, but it's already here.
Yep.
But to your question about training locally, we've done school to work a lot with the high schools, and so what I say for the youth out there is don't be afraid to ask. It never hurts to ask. And as an employer, I appreciate more than you would ever know if somebody walks in my door and says, I'm really interested in working and want to be a part of the team. So, at the airport we do that. I know the Port Authority does the same type of program, but yeah, it starts at the ground level and you work your way up 100%.
There's a need for training programs, be it government or private, to align with your needs as companies. How do we assure that gap is bridged?
I think what the government and the private entities need to be on the same page, right? Initially from the get-go. Same mission, same vision, and then that will create a seamless transition from A to B. CTech, there's different programs out there that are interested in aviation at Complex. We've had some students come to the airport, and we've invited large groups to immerse them into what we do, and some of those children have then gone on to be airline pilots or mechanics or go to work at FBOs in the States. So it's just there needs to be the ability, I think it's gotten a lot better over time, but to pick up the phone and to contact your government representative in your specific field and have that open dialogue about how do we help the youth get from A to Z. That's, that's
Again, exposure is so important. For example, I know the hurricane hunters, when they're here, they invite the schools out and the kids
Correct.
get to go on the planes to look at it. That type of exposure really creates an impression on these children and later on could help them in their career decisions.
correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
What role does certifications and professional development play in making sure that your areas are kept modern and up to date?
Certification is crucial. Having qualified people doing some of this work is necessary because there's ramifications of a ship running aground, and we see that a lot, as well as aircraft. Having someone that knows about mechanics, but I'm going to let him talk
Sure.
more about that, and having people certified, having the training and understanding that it's a evolving industry where what you see today is already obsolete. Tomorrow we have to look past. We have to look in the future as to what's next when it comes to those types of certifications.
100%. I speak for myself, but also, other carriers like Fly the Whale and Seabourn, and certifications are key in aviation. I mean, you have to have your pilot's license. If you're a mechanic, you have to have your A&P or your IA. Everything is highly regulated. But what I want the public to know is that these organizations, whether it's ours or someone else, more often than not, we're willing to pay for that education if you're going to be part of the team. So that's key, because a lot of times is the financial stress of somebody that doesn't have the means when they're young, trying to get into the business. How do I get from A to Z? Well, if you come to the organization, we will pay for your type rating. We will pay for your A&P. And I've done that countless times. Spend thousands and thousands of dollars because we want you as part of our team. And we don't want that turnover. So the more we're able to retain local talent, right, as Virgin Islanders, the better the organization does, the better the individual does, the better society does, in our opinion.
Bill, when pilots go for recertification, oftentimes they go to a simulator, am I correct?
Correct.
Is that something that we can use here, and how can that happen?
100%. I was actually in just Teterboro, New Jersey last week, flying a simulator. I have to go to flight safety every year. But yeah, 100%. We could have a training center. Simulators, so long as they are vetted by the FAA and implemented, and there's a training center, there's no reason why we can't have our own in-house simulation.
But not only that, that would attract people from the nearby Caribbean to come for their certification, their recertification.
100%.
So that's something we really, really need to look at. What about the operation of ships, vessels?
Oh, yeah.
They have simulators for that as well, am I correct?
Yeah.
Our harbor pilots, what type of training do they get?
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm
do they
not
need
sure.
to be recertified as well?
Yeah.
And do
Tug-
they use simulators?
Tug captains. I mean,
Yeah.
it's important. Their job very important. Certification for these, what we have now with electric vehicles. I think we got to bring in filing mechanics to work on these things now. That should be done here.
So, and part of our problem is our population. Because if you don't have enough work, then it doesn't make sense to be a professional here, because you have to look for something else to do. So that's part of our problem. But I would think that in some areas we could have some people that could provide services for all of the Virgin Islands and the nearby islands as well. So, is there anything else that you guys want to mention, or I'm going to ask you to give me a 1-minute summary and let's close out.
Again, the aquaculture and mariculture industry is a new industry, and we need to look at training our young people
and taking advantage of the folks who already are trained that are here on this island and in the other Virgin Islands. But it's it's about exportation. It's the only way we can bring in new monies, and using transportation is key to this for this to work. Exportation, it brings in new monies. It brings in meaningful jobs that hold, and it's a ability of a company being able to show growth, which is important. But having exportation is really the only way that this island can survive because of the geographical disadvantage that we have.
William?
Yeah, so I think, the key for the youth, right, just speaking to the youth, is don't be afraid to ask how can I contribute? How can I be a part of an organization? Because if you don't start at that ground level and work your way forward, you're never going to achieve that goal. But for the Virgin Islands, I can tell you, speaking for myself, that we need pilots, mechanics, customer service representatives, fuelers, on down the line. Our team, just in St. Croix, is 50 people. So it's a lot. There's jobs. There's good paying jobs that are here, but as Virgin Islanders, you have to, just feel free to reach out to all the prospective employers at the airport. Pick up the phone, and we're here to help. I can tell you that 100%. It's a very competitive space, but the sky is the limit, no pun intended, in aviation. But I think we have a lot of potential in St. Croix and the USVI that it has been untapped.
Carlos?
Yeah, I agree. I think to the youth of the Virgin Islands, go out there and get as much knowledge and everything that you can, everything that you like, your career. Just don't stop at one place because, I'm not making it. Just keep pushing and get your captain's license. It'll take you a long ways.
So we encourage our young people to get involved in the transportation industry. It is so important to our existence. That's what stimulates trade and in turn the economic development, and in turn improves the quality of life for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sand, sun, and success.